Welcome to Raging Bullets, a comics fan podcast, Season 2, Episode 30. We tackle Absolute Batman 1 and 2.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant colors. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what we're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission? To discuss DC comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding!
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Jim, the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, as I said, we're going to talk about Absolute Batman 1 and 2, wrapping up our discussion about this initial kickoff of this Absolute series. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Batman Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, hardcover, 40% off, only $17.99. And we have Batman, The Golden Age Omnibus, hardcover, Volume 2, the 2025 edition, 40% off, only $75. Thank you, DCBS.
Did you read that Kryptonian Age book yet?
No, not yet.
It's really good. We may want to do it at some point in time. There's so many things I want to do, but that may be one we want to chat about at a certain point. Over at InStockTrades.com, we have their deals of the week. They have DC's Finest The Flash, the Human Thunderbolt trade paperback, $39.99 regularly, 55% off, only $17.99. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6, Stone Ocean hardcover, Volume 7, $25 regularly, 40% off, only $15. The JSA Compendium trade paperback number 1, $59.99 regularly, 50% off, only $29.99. Junkyard Joe Deluxe Direct Market Exclusive hardcovers, $34.99 regularly, 50% off, only $17.49. And Thor, the Epic Collection trade paperback, Volume 10, The Eternals Saga, $44.99 regularly, 46% off, only $24.99. Thank you, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Carter Hall, scientific genius from a far-off world, flies into action as Hawkman.
Jim, before we get into this recording, I do want to shout out I finally finished Batman Resurrection. I finished the whole book. I'm going to go back on what I said and remind everyone that if you are a fan of the Batman 89 movie, you need to read this book. It is really, really a good book. Completely fills in a gap between Batman 89 and Batman Returns, which I've said before, but now that I've read the complete story and gotten to enjoy it, it is highest possible recommendation for anyone who liked the two Keaton movies. It very much is what I wished a third movie would have been, taking place in between the two. So it answered a lot of questions that I didn't realize I had until I read it.
Nice.
So, because if you think about the time passage between Batman 89 and Batman Returns, there was a lot of characters that were in the first one that didn't appear in the second one. And there was a lot of time jump between relationships of characters who were in both movies. So, and also there were characters in Returns who weren't in Batman 89 that it's like, weren't they in Gotham during all of that? So it starts to fill in a lot of blanks. So that's the part where I would say for anybody who is remotely intrigued, read Batman Resurrection. It's a very, very good book on its own. But I did watch Batman 89. Like, after starting to read the first chapter, I realized, oh my gosh, this really is like a direct follow-up. So I watched the movie first, and I've since watched Batman Returns. And, oh, is it a satisfying way to do this? I would recommend watching the first movie, reading the book, and then when you finish the book, watch the second movie. And it's really cool. Anyway, today we're going to be jumping into Absolute Batman #1. The writer is, of course, Scott Snyder. The artist is Nick Dragotta. The colorist is Frank Martin. Letterer is Clayton Cowles. The cover by Dragotta and Martin. Variant covers by Wes Craig, Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair. Mitch Gerads. The 125th variant cover by Ian Bertram. The 150th variant cover by Mitch Gerads. The 1/100th black and white variant cover by Jim Lee and Scott Williams. The associate editor is Sabrina Futch. The editor is Katie Kubert. And the executive editor is Chris Conroy. Batman, of course, created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. And a lot to talk about here. I don't know if after you read the second issue, you caught why I wanted to talk about issue 1 and 2. For me, my feelings on this book changed a lot after reading the second issue. I enjoyed issue 1 a great deal, but the key word there is enjoyed. I'm a Batman guy, and I wasn't like going, wow, this is like the greatest thing ever. It was Elseworlds. I really enjoyed the story, but I wasn't like completely sold yet, if that makes sense. Like I was going to keep reading it and enjoying it. I thought it was good Batman. Issue 2 changed it for me and put it in a different category. Where were you at on this? Like, what was your journey like with this one? Because we were going to last episode talk about issue #1, and as we started wrapping up the segment, we took a little break. I suggested afterwards, I'm like, I'd really like to talk about issue 2. I didn't know how I was going to avoid it.
Well, here's the funny thing. When you said that the Superman was your favorite, them, I almost said something, and I'm glad I caught myself. Because my favorite was Batman.
Really?
Yes. And I was like, because here's the thing, I loved the Superman story. So, y'all heard me gush last time about how awesome it was. But in reality, my favorite of the 3 was the Batman story.
Cool.
And it's one of the weird things, well, not weird, it's just one of the reasons that this was my favorite was, okay, so a lot of times us readers, we get these ideas in our head like, oh, this would be awesome if someone did this story. And the story that always was in my head was it would be awesome if Bruce wasn't the billionaire playboy. If when his parents were killed, he went off to an orphanage, and that's where he met his rogues, Ollie, Penguin, Riddler, Two-Face, Selina, all of them were people he met in the orphanage, and then he grows up being this street kid of Gotham, who, starts fighting crime. And, and I always had Alfred being the guy who ran the corner drugstore, and figured he'd be an ex-spy, British spy, hiding out in Gotham to get away from his past. And he's the one who finds Bruce. You think back to that famous moment when Bruce is sitting there after he first went out. He's not Batman yet, but he gets his butt kicked, and he rings for Alfred, and the bat, comes through the window. That famous scene. I always figured that scene, they would do it differently with, Alfred finds him, beaten down on the street, brings him in, and, brings him back and nurses him back. And it was funny because I always had this notion in my head that'd be a cool story. Then I'm starting to read this going, hey, wow, somebody did the story. Cool. So I was 100% all in just because there were so many similarities to this dream story I always had in my head. And add to it, you get some really cool Alfred moments where, again, the Beagle is rocking in this. And I'm digging who Alfred is in this. And then, when you start getting the hints of Bruce's friends, and again, I can see why in the second issue, because that really fleshes it out. And it really fleshes out, what Bruce and who Bruce is in this universe. So I 100% get why you wanted to talk 1 and 2. But for me, I was all in on this story just from issue 1. Issue 2 made me go, oh, yes, they're doing it. Cool. So I was cheering and hooping and hollering.
I was all in with issue 1. It just wasn't out of my batch when I was just looking at issue 1s. When I was looking at Superman, Wonder Woman, and Absolute Batman, it was not my favorite out of the batch. I felt like I I was much more intrigued by where Superman was going until I read issue 2 of this. And I saw where it was going. I get why you were like, because you had a connection, like this was a story that you wanted to see. I have very strong feelings on what I want Batman to be.
Yeah.
I love the millionaire playboy. I really love Alfred being his butler, and I'm missing it. So I was kind of hoping this was going to be like a opportunity for us to get an Alfred back as his butler kind of thing, if that makes sense. So when you walk in with certain expectations of like what you thought this was going to be, and it wasn't that, you're kind of like, I enjoyed this, but it's not what I was looking for. And I think some of that is, I've read a lot more of the Ultimate Spider-Man than you have, the original Ultimate Spider-Man, which was a modern retelling. It was Brian Michael Bendis' retelling of the Spider-Man story, but modernizing all of it. It was really, really good. So when you get in your head that this is probably what the absolutes are going to be, this wasn't being the first one out of the gate. I was thinking this was going to be Ultimate Batman, if I'm making any sense at all. With issue number 2, I think it just clicked for me as far as the story that they're telling. And I started sitting here saying, wait, I'm starting to really like this and really like the world. And I feel like issue 3 is going to continue that trend, where this could potentially be my favorite of the 3. What I found out in this scenario, I'm a lot more comfortable with them screwing with Superman than and Wonder Woman than I am Batman.
Yep. And again, I completely get where your groove is at, and I actually especially understand why issue 2 has you liking it more, because we get more of, we still see the same Bat, we still see the same Bruce. He's just not the billionaire, but we still have that same, because again, the question always is, who is the real Bruce Wayne? You know, is he the billionaire playboy? Is he the Bat? Is he the person we see hanging out with Alfred? You know, who is the real Bruce? And that's always been the great debate as to, is Batman the real man or is Bruce Wayne? You know, what's the mask, you know? And in this universe, you get, again, that same kind of duality. Because, you know, the initial stuff we're getting from Bruce is we're seeing just the intensity that is Bruce Wayne that he needed to have to become the Bat. Mm-hmm. You know, but for me, the one, again, I really loved their usage of Alfred here.
Oh, yeah.
And again, dramatic, different Alfred, much harder edge. This is an Alfred who didn't have to be a parent.
Right.
Now, you think back to Cersei, how she changed because she raised Diana in the absolute Wonder Woman. Alfred's the same way. He never had to raise Bruce. He's always been the spy, the secret agent, the killing machine that is, you know, always been hidden inside Alfred. So seeing this intensity in him was actually, again, that was kind of a neat little, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I liked it, you know?
Oh, by the way, I love this now. I really do. So, I mean, I want to be clear, but I feel like when you're talking about your journey with the book, it's unfair to sit there and say, when Absolute Batman #1 came out, I thought it was good. But I wasn't like clicking my heels together going, oh my gosh, yes. But keep in mind also in the reading order wise, Absolute Batman came out. So I grabbed it right away. Absolute Wonder Woman came out. Then Absolute Superman came out. So by the time Absolute Superman came out, I already knew, I'm like, okay, now I understand what they're doing with this line. And so that also would have impacted Superman. I agree with you on Alfred. I actually really like the fact that what we're getting here is a spy. There is no connection to Bruce, at least as far as we know. He has a connection to Gotham in the fact that this happens to be where his daughter lives. It also happens to be, where he frequently has missions because Gotham kind of lends itself to being that kind of place. But he is a guy on the run. I really like their introduction to him. I love the whole bit with the bike where he leaves the bike out there locked up, and while he's trying to talk to his daughter and trying to get things going in Gotham, lo and behold, the bike's already been jacked. I thought that was great. Really good sequence.
Well, and I especially like how when we get the opening sequence with him on the bike. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I was reading that. I'm thinking, Bruce? That was my first thought, that it wasn't Alfred. So when the scene comes and he takes the helmet off and it's, "My name is Alfred Pennyworth," and I'm like, oh, that is neat. Especially because the way he was talking about Gotham, how something's changed. You can't find it. Where's your heart? The heart of Gotham is gone away. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Because again, I was initially thinking Bruce, and then you get this whole Alfred story. And we start diving into, and you see him, with the full spy mode. And you're just like, guns on the wall, retinal scan to get into the room, the whole 9 yards. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So, for me, again, I absolutely loved how this opened up. And again, it opened up without any sign of the Bat yet.
Right.
It started off pure Alfred Pennyworth story. So that really gets you going, what the heck's going on here? And it's not until later that we start seeing, obviously once you start seeing Croc's gym, which again, that was a cool usage of Wayland. You start seeing, Bruce beating on the bag, or you think it's Bruce, turns out it's his one buddy, and then Bruce steps in. I loved how they kept leading us thinking, okay, here's it. Now it's going to be Bruce. He's beating on it. No fear, no weakness. Tonight you're up. I think it's my turn, and it was a great usage of making us think this was Bruce Wayne beating on the bag. No, it's his buddy.
I liked Alfred's apartment because it was a functional efficiency, where it's retinal scan to get in there. The guns are on the wall. He has, access to a laptop and, strong tech and things like that to be able to see what's going on. I like that we do actually see our first Bat appearance as he's learning more about the city. And we get to see a little bit more about Black Mask and stuff like that, like some teasers in there. Mm-hmm. Pacing-wise, it's a very good story. I always thought it was good. It was really interesting. I do like the efficiency setup, though, where it's like we don't have this multi-room apartment. He's not living there for long periods of time. He's going to be in Gotham for however long his stay here is, and then he's moving on. Like, this is not a place where he's going to plant down any kind of roots for a long period of time. Here's the thing. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that another agent uses that facility as well from time to time. Like, these are just little pods that just happen to be all over the place for people in Alfred's line of work. I really enjoyed that atmosphere setup. What do you think about Bruce being this big hulking guy? Like, it's a very interesting portrayal of Batman. That part I actually thought was very interesting from the get-go. We're used to seeing more of a streamlined Batman, very muscular. This is more of a Rocky Balboa. I'm talking about the later ones where he is really about power in what he's doing. What do you think about that take on Batman? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's very combat literate. But what do you think about the choice to make him such a big guy?
I like that. Mm-hmm. Again, it's fitting the I don't want to say lack of discipline, because this Bruce Wayne 100% has discipline. Yeah. And we do see later on he does have a lot of intelligence and whatnot. But this is, again, not the Bruce Wayne of means who could use tech and equipment to mitigate size. He had to be more powerful. He had to be stronger. He had to be able to deliver power and take a punch, more than what the regular version of Bruce has. So I like this. And again, I love the scene in Croc's gym where the first guy beating him in the back has more of the traditional look to him, what we expect for Bruce Wayne. Then we find out that's not Bruce, and you flip the page, and you see Bruce. You see the powerhouse, and you're like, ooh, that's cool. I dig this, and especially, how they tied in him beating on the bag to the flashback sequence. We start seeing, how did his father die? What actually happened? We get the initial tastes of it. We get the initial idea that, his father wasn't this doctor. His father was a teacher. oh, that's kind of neat. And they're talking about going to the movie. So you immediately think, oh, okay, that's where the parents die, walking through Crime Alley. Okay, but we later learn that's not the case. And I loved how they give us these teases into what we think is going to happen and then change it on us. Granted, Wonder Woman and Superman did the same thing, giving us little teasers and make things different. But I think with Batman, they did more a tighter to what we're used to. Like the initial run, Alfred, we think it's going to be Bruce on the bike. No, it's Alfred. Then we see the guy beating on the back. Oh, that's Bruce. Oh, no, this is Bruce. Then you think, oh, yeah, okay, he's talking about going to the movies. That's where the parents are going to die. Cool. They're keeping that. Oh, no, they're not. I thought that was one of the things I really enjoyed about this story. The fact that, they do take it and make some dramatic changes in Bruce's story. I think that for me is something I also really enjoyed. Whereas you again, you liked the book. I'm not saying you didn't, but you thought it was more of just a retelling of the story we're used to. This one dramatically changed some stuff, and that's something that I really latched on.
Are you saying that the other two didn't do that?
No, they all did it.
I was going to say, because I'm like, that's actually what the Absolute is. Remember, this was the first one out of the gate. So Absolute Batman is absolutely the first one out of the gate. Wonder Woman and Superman came later, as far as stories go. So as a reader, this was the one where you were introduced to the concept of what the Absolute books were going to be. Mm-hmm. By the time Wonder Woman and Superman came out, it was like, oh, okay, they're completely throwing everything out the window. I liked the choice in this that Dad died and Mom didn't.
Yeah.
Which I think which is a different sort of piece, because you don't need Alfred then in the role of being a parent to raise him. So now you can really say, well, we don't need Alfred in that capacity. We also don't have a reason for them to have a butler. Yep. So, in this case, how can we bring Alfred into this story and take some of the core that made Alfred cool, but make it real different? Because this Alfred it's the right kind of likable, meaning in the sense that I don't hate the character, but he's also not like, I view our Alfred, and to the point of where you're kind of going with some of this, because of the necessity of Alfred being the butler and having this service to the Wayne family, he was this really nice, caring, nurturing parental figure as well with Bruce. This Alfred is not a strong parental figure, does not have a really strong relationship with his daughter, although our Alfred doesn't either, because, as comic fans, we didn't read about Julia until years later. So this is an intriguing sort of story where we're getting to see a different journey for Alfred. I absolutely love the dad being the teacher and what happens to the dad, and the fact that we still get a Joe Chill story out of this, but it's a different one because of the fact that there is still that mother that is going to raise him, which is going to have an impact on Bruce. This naturally would be a different Bruce in the sense that he's still driven for all the same reasons, but yet his mother's still around. So a motherly influence is going to be different than Alfred the butler raising him as a father figure. It's a natural piece. We get different things from different parents, and I really like that the feel of this Bruce is driven by the mom, and we get to see a lot more of the mom in the second issue, which is a piece that I really enjoyed as well. Getting to see a lot more of that character.
Right. Well, and we really just find out that she's alive at the end of this one,
right?
Because again, it was a neat usage of how. Initially, Bruce is the class is at the zoo, and that's how we're learning. Okay, the dad and all that stuff. And it's not until you first start hearing the blam, the first gunshot, you're like, wait a minute. I'm like, oh, I thought, wait, no, he's supposed to die at the movie theater. Hold on. So I loved how that switched, and again, using the flashbacks to really channel Bruce's anger, where he breaks the sandbag, and he's in Waylon's, gym, and I love the mention of Ozzy, with Penguin, and then you flip the page and you see all of them as kids hanging out, and you immediately recognize who's who. You see, okay, that's Two-Face. There's Penguin. There's Catwoman. There's Riddler. There's Bruce. There's Croc. And I'm like, I love the fact that we had that picture of them. Mm-hmm. And just again, the fact that they knew each other as kids. Bruce is hanging out with Croc. Obviously, Penguin's getting connected with illegal stuff going on. Because he's like, wait, he's gonna get busted any day now. So it's him warning his buddy Waylon, don't get mixed up with Ozzy. Yeah, he's our friend, but he's in the wrong stuff here. And I love, just that little notions there, man. These were some of the stuff that just, you're like, oh, cool, oh, neat, That was something that I wanted from, an alternate universe. And it's funny because you talk about how this one came out first. I didn't read this one first, by the way. Because I didn't read them as they came out. I read them as we were getting ready for the show. So I had all three in front of me. So the first book I always read is Superman. So I jumped on and read Superman. Then I was like, okay, Bat or Wonder Woman? Oh, let's go Wonder Woman. So I read Wonder Woman. So for me, this was the last one I read.
Right.
So it was kind of neat that, and so I think that could also be part of why I really enjoyed this the most, because I was so comfortable with how much they're dramatically changing their stories.
Yeah, that's exactly why I liked I think Absolute Superman hit for me, because by that point in time, I understood the rules of it, and I think that is where it worked, and that's why I think when I circled back around and read issue 2 of this, I had a better experience because of the fact that, by the way, when I say better experience, I always thought it was a good book. I love Elseworlds. So, having alternate universes and things like that, I love that. I walked into this, though, with the assumption this was going to be Ultimate Batman. And that was wrong on my part, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool where this went. I actually really like where it went. One of the pieces I really liked in issue 1 right from the get-go is Black Mask.
Oh, God, yeah.
This take on Black Mask is awesome. So this was out of the gate. Saying that it's good, it's kind of like when you're rating the whole book when you're all the way through. First time through that I read it, I'm like, that was a good read. One of the parts that I thought was great was what they did here with Black Mask. You need to have like a villain hook, where you're feeling like, okay, because right now what you've given me is he's friends with everybody that I would think would be a bad guy in this. You got to give me somebody right now that I want to see him beat up. And that's what they did with Black Mask. I like when he had the 2 crime bosses and he's sitting there talking to them, and he brings out his collection of masks.
Yep.
The faces of the real faces of the people that they took out before. And I like that there's 2 other cases here waiting for you guys.
Yep. Oh, God, yeah.
That was so awesome.
Yep. Well, and again, you think about it, this is Maroni, Sal Maroni, and Falcone.
Yeah.
These are the 2 big names of Gotham are now dead.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. And the freakiness of his appearance did initially throw me. But it was one of those things that I was like, you know what? I'm digging it. And I will admit, it was, during the art read-through that I could actually go through and just stare at the mask, stare at them, stare at, his crew, and just, I kind of got a groove of it. So his look did grow on me. In the initial shock of it, especially when you get to the point when you really see them, jab some knives in their eyes, cut off their faces, and just cheers, for the action. Cheer and celebration. Turn up the music, pump up the jam. I'm like, okay, we've got an absolute nut job here. And again, it was funny because my first thought was like, what if Black Mask became the Joker? Was where I was thinking they were kind of going with this, where they're taking Black Mask to a Joker level of insanity. And I did air quotes around the term insanity because there's always a question on Joker. So I was very glad later on when I realized, oh no, that's not the case, Jim. There's still a Joker in this universe. Just wait for him. I'm like, yes. So this was one of those things where I was like, every time I start thinking it's going to be A, they give me C. And I'm like, ooh, I didn't see that one coming. Nice.
Did you read any of the Krakoa era X-Men? Like, I know you've been doing a lot of like Marvel reading and stuff like that. Did you read any of that stuff?
Yeah, I've started getting caught up on that.
I think we know where Xavier's helmet from that went. Because it does look like Black Mask is wearing that.
Yeah, I think so.
I do like Bruce's outfit. Like, I like his cowl. I like, the way that the helmet goes on and everything. It's a different sort of take. That part I like. I like the different, sort of, it's more of a headpiece that goes on and clearly straps on some level. But I really enjoyed that. What do you think about Jim Gordon as the mayor?
You know what? That was another one. I was like, oh, that is cool. And again, he was a cop. He ran on the record as being a cop, and he got, hired on because Mayor Hill, as we know, is a corrupt mayor. Mm-hmm. So naturally, people are going to go towards Gordon. Like, hey, this is our guy who's going to get us freedom, and he's not doing it. They're calling for a step down. This whole chaos going on with these party animals are really affecting Gordon. I was like, this is kind of cool. Because, again, this is another one you immediately recognize that same Gordon style to him. As soon as they started talking, I was like, this is kind of cool. This is Jim Gordon. This, again, is another one of those characters we're comfortable with. Yeah, he's tweaked a little bit. He's not the commissioner. He's not a cop. He's the mayor. So Bruce doesn't have to fight the corrupt mayor, right, as this Batman. He's got to deal with other crazies. And I thought that was, again, a neat little take on it.
Do you think...
Again, issue 2, his involvement even escalated even more.
Do you think we'll get a Robin or Batgirl in this? I mean, obviously we've seen Barbara Gordon already. Do you think we'll get that? Do you want that? And if so, do you have a preference on... Would you like this Barbara Gordon potentially to become Batgirl?
Yeah, I think we would get. In my head, I think we'll get a Batgirl before we get a Robin.
Me too.
And I think it's going to be Babs.
I'd like that.
I 100% think that we're going to kind of get that group going. One of the things I do wonder is, what's going to happen to, because obviously we see, Harvey is working for the DA's office. So we see that, Penguin is getting involved in criminal activity. Wayland's got this obsession with gators and crocs and, exotic animals. Are we going to see a transformation from him? Are we going to see Selena, who is Selena? She's got, are we going to get more of the cat back? Those are the kind of stuff that really is running through my head. And again, Gordon, what's going to happen with him? Is he going to, because his reelection campaign is going very horribly for him, so is he going to actually get reelected? Is Gordon going to have to change up, and not be mayor and not be police chief? Because he's not going to be a chief if he runs for mayor and loses to the guy, because, Hill's not going to appoint him. So I do wonder, these are kind of stuff that I think it's funny, after 1-2 issues, I'm already starting thinking issue 10, issue 20. I'm thinking down the pipeline, how is this going to play out?
Here's the thing. With this Batman, I will say, especially in the second read-through, the violence and the reasons for the violence in this, I really like, because we're dealing with a mob, a huge mob of Black Masks, this Black Masks people. And I liked that Batman has, his pointy ears come off and they're 2 knives, and, they're able to be thrown a la batarangs. But they will, he's not afraid to impale people and stuff like that, but it's not about killing. And I like how Alfred's using Alfred as the narrator in that sequence, knowing that he's skilled. He's analyzing Batman's fighting styles, so we're getting to see that this is very much what you were saying earlier, a skilled Batman. But he's also referencing the fact that this is bloody, not worried about that part, but missing arteries, missing things like that. Like, he's doing things deliberately. What did you think of the Bat Axe?
Well, the Bat Axe was badass.
Yeah, I liked it too.
And again, this is the more physical, bruiser Batman. But again, as you said, when Alfred's breaking it down, he's studying. This is a guy who's trained, but it's not even just trained. He's intentionally not killing people. The no-kill code is still in effect. And that was something I really absolutely loved, the fact that, that is still part of Bruce. If he had been slaughtering these people and killing them off, I wouldn't have enjoyed this as much. The story is still great, and I probably would have been okay with it, but it's that the no-kill code is always something so huge as a part of Bruce's life that I was like, I love this.
Well, it's what separates him from Asbats. I mean, when Azrael took over as Batman, the kill code kind of eventually went out the window.
Yeah.
It became a very, very different Batman. I think I don't want Batman ever to be the Punisher. I love the Punisher. Right. Punisher's a great character. I don't want Batman to be the Punisher. This skirts an interesting line of in between, I think, the Batman we're used to. And because of his increased physicality, I would say he's in between our traditional Batman and Asbats as far as the violence goes. But I like the measured choices with the violence. I also like that when he takes the gun, like he takes Alfred's gun and things like that, I like his modification. Like he that gun, it doesn't just go away. There's modifications made to it. He does things later. I really enjoyed like that aspect of seeing that. I wouldn't want him to just be this big hulking brute. And I think that was part of my worry when I was initially reading issue 1 was, okay, we're adding bulk on this guy. Are we going, for lack of a better term, are we going very 90s where we're like, we're bulking him up, we're increasing the violence, and we're losing the intelligent aspect of Batman? Because there's got to be a balance of that. I need Batman to be a guy who can be a detective, who can analyze things, who can build, gadgets and work on gadgets. I like that kind of stuff. I like it in the different setting. I actually really like that this Batman's more hands-on and he's helping to rebuild the city. And actually when he's part of the destruction, he comes back and helps rebuild it too. But then takes advantage of what he's doing. His Bat caves, plural, I think is a very cool concept. Like, I like what's being done here. As far as I'm going to help out the city, it's also going to help me get to know the inner works, the public works, everything, above ground and below ground and all the way up to skyscrapers work in this city. So I'm more effective in navigating this. I'm going to really know this city like the back of my hand. I really liked that choice. That was something, especially as, I got through issue 1 and 2 and started doing rereads of this. Like, I'm starting to dig this concept. It's a cool concept. I would not want this, and I would say this with all 3 Absolute books, I would not want them to be the main continuity. And that sounds like an insult to the books. It's not. I like this Absolute universe the same way I like the Ultimate universe for Marvel. And especially now, what they've done with it, we're going to be doing taking a good look at Ultimate Spider-Man, the new Ultimate Spider-Man, for our next episode. And there's things about that book that'll be fun to talk about, but I don't want that to be the main continuity either. I like it to have its own continuity, though. Like, I'm hoping this has some legs to it, and we get to follow this storyline because from issue 1 to issue 2, this one is making a drastically steady climb for me. And I'm finding more and more that I like that. And what they're doing with him in the city, I think, is interesting. I actually like that the whole bat fixation has a backstory as well.
Yes. Oh, God, yeah. And, it's one of the funny things that I didn't catch until my art read-through after reading issue 2 was him picking up the skull from the party animals that plays out in issue 2. And it's, again, it was a... and naturally, when I read issue 2, I didn't remember him picking up the scene, but in issue 1, you actually see him looking at it and studying it, and then later on, we see, okay, yeah, he really did study it, break it down, and he's actually using it. So I was like, that is for me, was something like, oh, that is kind of cool that they're keeping track on this. On top of everything you said about modifying the shotgun, making it a no-kill. But this was a really cool, just, again, going through... read issue 1, really loved it. Came back to 2, said, okay, yes, this is even getting better because it really started diving more into the intelligent, Batman. We saw in issue 1 that Bruce was a super smart kid. And that he had a big brain on him, and then the death of his father at the zoo was the thing that really just changed everything. That made him, the more intense kid that he needs to become the Bat. And again, it's the tragic family story that creates the Bat.
What's an interesting piece in this one as we're seeing it go through, I like that in issue 1, Alfred discovers who he is and follows him. But I also like that in issue 1 and 2, at least right now, he's keeping that to himself. Like, he has not revealed that to his superiors, the people that hired him. They're guiding him and they have expectations of him and what he's doing, but he's not giving them more information than they need. And that's an intriguing prospect, because I think there's multiple reasons why Alfred's not doing that. It's going to be interesting to see as that's more fleshed out as far as what are some of the motivating factors for what Alfred's doing in this.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, yeah. And again, who does Alfred actually work for? Because he's not British government.
Right.
Because I was, again, seeing the spy, I was initially thinking, oh, okay, we're dealing with the Beagle here. We're dealing with the Alfred that's a spy. And by the end, you're like, that ain't a spy. There's something else going on here. Who does he actually work for? And part of me was immediately, when I asked who does he work for, the first thought that popped in my head was Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
That was the very first thing that popped in my head. Once I realized he's not British government, that was the first thing. So be curious to see, who he actually works for.
Alfred does not have a lot of luck with bikes.
No, he does not.
But that was something that was really enjoyable. I liked everything about this story. I liked the reveal of the Joker early on, as far as where the Joker's going to be. That piece all worked. The artwork's beautiful, by the way. It is something I really like. The art style. I like the colors. I do like the the characterization of the various characters in this piece. The big hulking Batman was something I've referenced it that way multiple times. Was something I needed to get used to. As far as what they're doing with him. But as the story's gone on and I've gotten more comfortable with this version of Batman and seeing how he's well rounded. That's the piece where I think I was really worried that the size was going to be, we're just getting a thug, a brute, and we're losing the mind of the Bat, if that makes any sense. And that's not the case. It's just because of his upbringing being different, and we're getting a different take of the same potential. It really does show how nature and nurture factor into the development of a human being. And I like that this story is taking the real life tweaks that are happening in this story and making them play out in a way that makes a lot of sense in who the characters become. Mm-hmm. But what did you think of the artwork in this one? Because I something that did stand out for me as being something I found to be very, very good.
Oh God, it's absolutely beautiful. And again, it's a great capture of the chaos of combat.
Yeah.
There was just a dance, and that's something that always impresses me. How does the artist draw the fight sequences? Do you feel the motion? Can you see the movement on a still page? And that's something that they did brilliantly here. Especially because his cape is different. This cape, is different than what we're used to. He's kind of got that little hook kind of ways, and then it pops out for the big wings for the glider type of stuff. Plus, it's more armored because he takes some shots, in issue 1 from the bullets. Issue 2, he's taking some knives and swords and whatnot, and it's his arm. Some armor,
even throwing stars.
Yeah, even throwing stars. Yeah, he's taking a beating. And part of it is he's physically taking a beating, but also part of it is his cowl, his suit is, helping him out with that. So again, this is a bigger hulking Batman, but he still has the moves. He still has the flow. And again, issue 2, that opening fight sequence in the aquarium was absolutely brilliant because again, it shows a physical dominating Batman, but then to the point where it also shows the intelligence. It shows the strategery that we both love, where they're, the breaks the tank, so we got a bunch of salt water, and like, yeah, you got to come down sometime. Oh no, drop some, some concentrate, turns the salt water into sulfuric acid. Absolutely love that. And great usage of the back, great usage of the intelligence, and again, this Bruce is, he is a smart kid. He's got that, he had the intelligence, he had the physical size, the star football player, but it was also everything was preparing to be the Bat. He's, this is that same level of intensity that we get in current universe. It's just little tweaks here and there. I love that.
I did like that his bat caves made a bat symbol on the city.
Yeah.
Like if you read them overhead, like their locations are in a bat symbol format, which I get that like he would want a pathway to be able to, know wherever he's at in the city where one potentially would be. But I really do love the irony of that these little pods are all over the place. So we're taking it as he doesn't have a traditional bat cave, right? He's got these little bat caves all over the place.
Yeah, that's how he rolls. That's how this one's rolling with. There's no one set cave because he doesn't have stately Wayne Manor.
Right.
Or he doesn't have the apartment or the townhouse, whatever version of Bruce we have. So he's got these caves that are hidden throughout the city that are squatting in some locations. Some are sewers. Some are, I love that, the empty apartment buildings. The abandoned high-rise that never got finished because of Gotham. He took it over, and he knew about it because of his occupation. The subterranean stuff he knows because he worked for the sewer system. He knows where the hidden locations are that no one's ever going to go to. I love that.
The idea of this being a city where the polls are showing that people are getting behind him, considering what Gotham is like, I really like that overall as people are seeing Batman as being this force of change in Gotham. You could see why people would get behind anything extreme that is trying to bring some form of order to the chaos and stop. When you've got these party animals and stuff like that running all over the place, I could see a citizen going, hey, at least somebody's doing something. Yeah. And they're doing something pretty big. And the legend starting to form in the fact that there's people that have been saved in this process. Seeing the horror of what Bruce went through in the zoo, where we got a chance to see all the bats crawl, like kind of surrounding him and all of that. You could see why that became a fixation later on, to the point where he even did engineering and got awards for engineering around it. He was an interesting sort of kid growing up, because that was his science fair prize, right? Was doing that kind of piece. The friends are going to be interesting because it's going to be interesting to see. So far, Alfred has figured out who he is. The fact that he's grown up with all of these characters, are any of them going to figure out who he is because of the fact that they grew up with him?
I don't know, man. I think that is going to be the interesting stuff, because this is his crew. As a kid, these were his friends. These were the people that he hung out with. They know him better than anybody else. And again, it adds a whole nother level to him and Selina's relationship, which I absolutely love. But again, it does add to the fact that, how can, when he starts, if he starts going after them, if they cross the line and he's got to start going after them, how will they not recognize him? What's the, but again, he's dramatically different, as the Bat, and I'm assuming he's using the Bat voice, so they won't recognize him, but, it's going to be interesting to see.
I don't know, dude. You put on a Batman costume and you start running around the city, I don't care what kind of Batman voice you put on, I'm going to eventually figure out it's you. It's going to be interesting with his mom and Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
They have a friendship that's there, and clearly he knew Thomas Wayne as well. But Jim discovered him covered in the bats. Is that going to be something that is going to lead to the linkage? And by the way, I don't need all that to happen, nor am I looking necessarily for all of that to happen. I like the intrigue of, will they? Mm-hmm. That part's interesting to me. And I don't need a leap to that either. I don't want this book to be, everybody just knows he's Batman. If that happens, that's going to be like, what's the point in the mask?
Exactly.
So I'm okay with it being a limited number of people that know, but I do think the way these relationships are give this a very interesting possibility, and I think more danger to Bruce, as eventually his friends either become revealed as being corrupt or become gradually more corrupt, because as they're around that poker table, you can't help but realize each one of them skirting their own kind of line of survival in Gotham City. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, again, you think about it. We've got Oswald, who's already getting involved with unconventional characters, and then you've got Harvey, who's with the law firm, but they've already I love that Oswald was the one who called him Two-Face. You're so Two-Face. You're like, a little tease, but, who knows what's actually going on? Because the neat thing, the best Two-Face stories, origin stories I've ever read were that he always had Two-Face in him. It wasn't just the acid thrown on his face that created Two-Face. Two-Face was always there. It was the chemical that brought him finally out into the public, And so you wonder if this Harvey is actually, has that same kind of darkness, And, Enigma, it's, Riddler's Riddler. So it's going to be kind of neat to see how does he get tied into this. And we already, with Wayland, I don't know. It's like I want to see that stuff. And again, like you, I don't want it to be an issue 4. I'm thinking issue 20, issue 25, 50 down the line. A couple of years from now, when we start seeing his friends, him going up against his friends.
Sure.
We want to say, for me, what's next is bringing back Selina. What happens to Gordon in his election? What happens if Gordon loses, which I'm pretty sure he's going to lose? Where does that go? What about Alfred? Does he stick with his company, or does he leave the company and help Bruce? Can Alfred leave his company? I don't know. Are we going to get, a backstory without Alfred in it full time? They've introduced Julie. Are they going to have Penny One be the assistant to Bruce? There's so many different things that are running through my brain right now that I'm absolutely loving this story. Here's
a piece we're not talking about. He's brought them something with chips in it to the table that, first of all, potentially compromises that he's Batman. At least starts asking questions as far as why does he have this. It puts them in potential danger because, them having that as they're working on it, is there any possibility Black Mass is going to figure out where it's at?
Yeah.
Assuming the party animal, I'm making a lot of assumptions with the party animals link, but I think I'm pretty spot on with that piece because the story's lending itself to that. Do they actually identify that the party animals are his, right? I mean, they've identified that. I'm not just making the assumptions because of the masks, right?
Well, everyone keeps accusing him of it.
Yeah.
So yeah. And Alfred knows that the party animals are Roman because he's like his target is Roman, and these are the party animals. And he's tracking them. So yeah, it's just not public knowledge. But
yeah, that's where I was going with this. Is how well known is it? And I think we're both seeing it the same way.
Yeah,
it's known, but known in quotes, right. Which is something that I really like.
Because even Oswald talks about how the party animals they're not taking action from somebody. Mm-hmm. They're not muscling in on territory. They're just killing people. And he's like the Roman. The Roman is known, and like he kills people who he meets with. who are trying to meet with him and cut a deal. He simply kills them. So it's the underworld kind of does know sort of what's going on. And I'm assuming the cops know, but they can't touch them, and I do love Bruce's cover. He's like, I found it. I'm heading to repair at City Hall. But sure enough, if, any of the party animals find out they have this information, are they going to rat out Bruce, say, hey, our buddy Bruce found this,
Yeah.
and does that lead to something? Because they're all fiercely loyal to each other. But you torture somebody enough, they're going to give up the information. So that's something I wonder if that's going to come back and bite, Bruce and one of his friends are going to get hurt because he brought the ape skull there.
I did like the use of the cape as being the way that he's like rappelling down the building.
Yeah.
And I liked actually when he got into the room and he wrapped it around like it was a Tom Baker Doctor Who scarf.
Yeah.
Where it was, just that look was very different. And I really quite liked it. So all of that stuff I thought was really interesting and intriguing. The Arkham file and that stuff being in, like what does Arkham mean in this world? What does that look like? Is something that's interesting. I would have never guessed in a million years that our first villain was going to be Black Mask. I never would have guessed that's where this story was, going to go initially. And that I really do like. It's something that's very interesting off of this.
Oh, but and again, this version of Black Mask, there have been so many versions of him out there. This one is just the psychotic, he's the psychotic killer. And I'm still trying to figure out what is his end game. And I love the fact that we don't know what his true end game is yet.
This giant vehicle that he pulls out, like, where does he keep that? I thought that was really great, as that was the way, like, he got down there and he wound up escaping. I like that they were both, he knew that they were in the vehicle, but Alfred had no idea that, like, because he was following him down, that chute they were going down was actually taking him right inside this giant vehicle. Again, showing that, like, his getting to know the public works gave him an opportunity to take advantage, I think, of some old construction equipment in order to build up this bad boy. Right? Is that how you're taking this?
Oh, big time. 100%. This is old construction equipment that got discarded for whatever reason or abandoned on a job site because of funding or something. And he's just like, okay, I will take that. Thank you. I will take that. Thank you. And just, piece here, piece there, putting it together. Now, like you, I do wonder, where is he parking this? Because that is awful big.
Where I also liked issue 2, the Joker tease in issue 1, it was really clear they were wrapping up at the end, that last page, and I liked it, don't get me wrong, because you want to know, like, is this world going to have a Joker? We already got that. And they kind of left us just with that lingering. Here's where issue 2, because now the story's more established, the cliffhanger in issue 2 is something that really has me jonesing for the backstory of Selina and Bruce.
Yes.
That we're going to get here. We got to see the metal thrown out the window. I liked that was a setup. I did not see Selina coming in that sequence, and I really liked how that played out because they hooked me into issue 2. And I feel this is a book that's continuing to get better as it's going along, or get more fleshed out, and the world's getting more realized, and I'm finding I want to know more about it. I like the pacing of this because I didn't need Selina before now, other than the picture that we've seen her in and the references to her. I like the tease of, you're only going to get a little tease at the last part of the page. She's the one that caught the medal. Now let's talk a little bit more about Selina. Yes. And this is pacing out really, really well. And for me, it's been kind of a slow burn, but the fire's getting hotter on this book. And by the end of issue 2, I'm looking at this, I'm going, I am really excited for issue 3. To the point where I'm to the point where I'm going to be very interested to see what happens when I read issue 2 of Absolute Wonder Woman and issue 2 of Absolute Superman, where my ranking of these books sit. Because, as this book's continuing to build, as I always say, I think, when I've talked about this many times, sometimes a book you got to give like the first arc to really wrap your head around the world they're creating. Boy, Issue 2 was a home run hit for me on this one. I really liked how this one was paced out and how it wrapped up.
Oh, 100% agree. And again, it's issue 1 was my jump. This bat was my number 1 of the 3.
Yeah.
Issue 2 really it's kind of like you watch a football game and they're running the score. That's what they did with this. They just kept running with it and just kept beating it down like, man, this is awesome. So like you, I'm looking forward to reading 2 of Superman and Wonder Woman just to see if the continuation goes. Because I'll be honest with you, of Superman and Wonder Woman, I really did enjoy I really love that Cersei Wonder Woman relationship so much, just showing how Cersei changed and how how the island changed. That I was like, there's a tight fight between those two. So I'm really curious to see who gets the silver. And that's, I think, because right now the Bat's got the gold locked. So we're going to see there's a fight now for second place.
It's interesting though that your reading order was the opposite of mine.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see as this goes along how that impacts change along the way. Because I did feel like issue 2 of this one, because I had already read now, I read Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. Now I'm coming back to Batman again. I was in a very different place with these books. Totally understood the rules. Really loved issue 2 of Absolute Batman in a very different way. I'm going to be curious to see what happens with issue 2 and 3. I'm with you. Wonder Woman was my middle book, similar to yours. So we're completely on the same page with Wonder Woman. It's going to be interesting to me as far as what the shift's going to be with this. I love this line. And it's smart that they did these first 3 books. I'm excited for Flash in 2025. We're going to get Absolute Flash.
Dude, I am 100% all in on that one. I'm eagerly curious to see what they do with him.
Yeah.
Because you think back to Flash, there's so many. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with that. I really don't know how. Because it's some of the cool stuff with Flash is there's always that positivity, that hope. And it's like Flash fact: Flashes run towards danger. There's always a way. We've always got time to fix the problem. And I do love that, just that notion and just that vibe that Flash has. So I'm curious to see how they're going to tweak that. What are they going to change on Barry? I'm assuming it's Barry. Who knows? Maybe they'll go with something else. I don't know. Have you heard if it's Barry, or have you heard anything?
No, I don't. Okay. I don't know. I don't know yet who it's going to be. I could see it being Barry or Wally because of the fact they're starting from scratch. I'm assuming it's going to be Barry or Wally. Or, I guess to your point, you would maybe somebody else. I think just with how they're following form-wise, here's the interesting part. If you were starting off a Flash book right now and they said you could pull any person and you could reimagine the Flash, who would you pick?
Oof. My gut always says Barry, but I wonder if they could do Jay.
Yeah. I'm guessing the odds are more.
Odds are Barry. It's going to be Barry
or Wally. I don't think Wally's out of the running. But I'm with you. If you're asking me to bet on it, I would bet on Barry.
Yeah. My money is always going to be on Barry for them to start it off, just because it's. But because Wally, one of the neat things of Wally is going from Kid Flash to just his own mastery of how the student surpasses the master in a lot of ways. So how do you start with Wally if you don't have a Barry? So it's, I don't know. Again,
do you want to know who it is?
Yes, I do.
It's Wally.
It's Wally.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, Jeff Lemire's gonna be the writer. Nick Robles on art. There is. I just did a search for it because I figured seeing as we're having the conversation, it's interesting to play this one out. It is Wally.
Wow, man, how did they?
I don't know.
Because again, like you, I love Wally West, so I'm not arguing that, saying, "Oh, that's horrible." I didn't know. It's not. I'm just like kind of shocked because is it, for me, one of the really great things about Wally is the student surpassing the master, the teacher. Because as a Flash, Wally West does surpass Barry in a lot of ways, but there's still some classic Barry moments. So I'm like, this is going to be that.
Remember,
now I'm really excited to read that. I was excited before. Now I really got to, that's going to be a must read when it comes out.
Remember, though, you're basing what you're thinking there on all of the rules from a regular universe.
Correct.
So where it's interesting now that I know the rules of the Absolute Universe, that it gets me really excited for the fact that it doesn't really matter who it is. It's what are they going to do with them?
Yeah.
And that part's going to be it. Like, what is this Wally like? What is the backstory? Was he the first Flash? Were there other Flashes? I don't know. I mean, who knows how this is going to play out? Because it doesn't really say anything other than, it's Wally. That has me interested and intrigued for what they're going to do. This has been good, though. I mean, as far as this Absolute run goes, is there anything that you're like, it's going to be on the back burner? Like, I'm not going to be rushing to read as it comes out? Where are you at on this one? Is this kind of a top of the stack group of books? Mid stack? Bottom stack? Where are you at on this, like, Absolute line so far?
Okay, so here's one of the things. One of the ways I've been dealing with my reading, it's, do I wait for it to come out on the app, or do I get it right away?
Got it.
That's how I've been that's how I'm kind of reading stuff now. There's a lot of stuff that I absolutely love, but I'm like, I'm just going to wait for it to come out on the app. Because I'm like, I've got the app. I'm going to use it more. I've been using it a lot more, and I'm planning on next year using it even more. I'm really diving more into the digital universe.
So what is this?
Comic books. I'm cut back dramatically on the physical paper stuff I'm buying. So for this Absolute universe, this right now is I'm buying it. I'm picking up. I'm going to Comixology and I'm picking up these issues as they come out. I'm not waiting for it to come out on the app, even though I'm paying for the app. I'm not waiting for it. I'm jumping on it.
Yeah, I do a lot. So I'm such a weird hybrid now of what I'm doing, because there's certain books where I like having the physical, just as far as from the collectible standpoint. There's books where I buy them day and date digital, like you're talking about. There's books where I read them on apps, but I'm collecting them, like when they come out in the deluxe hardcover collection. It's an interesting sort of hybrid. I'm collecting a lot of like omnibuses and things like that as well. So what I'm really trying to get myself in the habit of is not like triple and quadruple buying things. Just because of the fact that now, because before it was like you would buy floppies, you'd buy the monthly floppies, and then it wasn't uncommon for me to buy like a really cool hardcover collection where they had the extras, because I was a big fan of like when a deluxe edition came out, it had sketch art and stuff like that in it. That would draw me, or if it was oversized, like the Absolutes or even those deluxe, when DC started doing those deluxe hardcovers that were a little bit bigger. Those were a draw because of the fact that you're just getting the artwork a little bit larger. Then digital became like a thing, and I found myself like sometimes buying things like 3 times. And
Yep.
I'm trying to now put things in lanes, so I do find, here's the thing, I still like that paper smell. So, I like having certain books in paper. I like having certain books digital. I like some of these great collected editions. It's really, I'm kind of all over the place, but I like that. Whereas me, even 10 years ago, I liked things kind of, if I was getting floppies, I wanted floppies, and it very quickly, collecting has changed for me. How I go into, my love for comic book shops has not diminished at all. So I want to be clear about this. When we talk about digital, at least I can speak for myself on this one. We talk about digital. It hasn't changed my interactions with comic shops at all. I'm actually finding right now I pop into comic shops more now than probably I have since the end of the pandemic. Where it was kind of like we got used to this digital interaction kind of thing and mail ordering everything. Now I'm enjoying going into physical comic shops more. It doesn't hurt the fact that there's a number of them near me now, which is great. I actually really love that. But what I'm buying is different. Like what I go in there looking for. Certain books I'll be looking for back issues. Certain times I'm looking for swag. I'm looking for statues or collectibles like that. Statues are still a big thing for me. If I see a really cool statue, I in my office at work, and my superintendent actually got me started doing this because I didn't bring any of this stuff to work before. But my superintendent in his office, he's a good guy. He's got on his upper shelf, he's got all kinds of different statues and busts and like helmet. He's got Boba Fett's helmet and stuff like that up there. He's just a really, really good guy. So I saw that he's got all that up there. I'm like, I never bring any of this stuff with me to work. What a great idea. So in our tech building over there, I've got this table that's off to the side where I've started bringing this is giving me an excuse to grab more because I got a spot.
Like you needed an excuse to buy this stuff.
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. But you know what? I will say this. Here's where it's cool though. At my office and stuff like that, like anybody in any job, you have certain stresses that happen at your job. You just have those days where it was I love my job. I always have. But no matter how much you love your job, there's days. And there's interactions with people. Even my favorite, I really work with some really good people. So I really like the people I work with. But we all have different roles and responsibilities, and sometimes they lead to clashes. And when I say clashes, it's not like we don't get out and do Star Trek, it's nothing like that. It's more of the fact that we're trying to achieve the goals for our departments, and sometimes they conflict. And it's trying to find the way, that happy medium where they're able to do what they're able to do, what they need to do, I should say. I'm able to do what I need to do, and we're kind of facilitating each other versus conflicting. So when you do that, you're going to have stressor days and stuff like that. It is really nice to go into my office and have that kind of stuff. I've also got the team that works for me are just really good people. So it's a fun environment there. I found a way to have this stuff up and yet keep my office still professional. If that makes because that's the key. It's you don't want to go too far with it where people walk in now and it's like a playground versus it being so statues and busts and things like that work really well because of the fact that they're good conversation pieces, but they're also off to the side versus when they walk into my office, they don't I'm not digging my way through those things to get to be visually seen. So that part's been kind of an interesting piece with it, but that's how I interact with comic shops now. I'll grab collected editions. I will grab sometimes some back issues, and if I see a really cool statue or bust or something like that, I'll pick that piece up. You're right, I didn't need an excuse, but it is nice to have that stuff at work, and I find that statues work better than action figures for that.
Oh, definitely.
Just because it's a different sort of presentation. It's art. It's a sculpture versus an action figure. If that makes any sense. It still gives you the same geek feel. So what it does for me is exactly the same. But for somebody that comes in, it's a piece versus a figure. And there's something there is that still distinction line over there that works. And because that part I really like.
No, I completely agree with you. That's 100%. And again, with me, because I work from home, when I have those stress moments, where I need to get away, I just go downstairs and talk to Dad for a little bit and then go back to work. It's kind of, we each need that stuff. So, yeah, when I had a cube, I did have, I had some of my smaller action figures. Well, some of my smaller statues and whatnot, in my cube. And I actually still use my two-face coin sometimes. Seriously, like you get a moment where you're like, yes or no, I don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. I'll flip the coin, and I throw out in the group chat that our department has. I'm like, hey, I flipped my two-face coin, and it came back bad side, so I say no. And everyone laughs, ha 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 ha, Jim, and they don't realize, no, I actually did flip the coin.
That's funny. Do you always do what the coin says?
Yes, you have to do what the coin says.
That's
then I've got a magic 8-ball. Sometimes I use that.
Hope this craft can withstand this powerful force.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of the show. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. You prefer to contact us that way. RagingBullets.com is the show website. It feeds into X/Twitter, and it also feeds into our Facebook fan page. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community. I love the people over there, and they always post some really cool news and updates on what's going on in the world of comics and pop culture. You can find me every other week on Is It Jaws, a film review podcast where I co-host with Paul Spataro. The About Us section of our show website is where you can find out how to connect with us on gaming platforms and social media. We love connecting with you in the ways that you like to connect with us. And we are, of course, sponsored by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
Batman Gotham by Gaslight, the Kryptonian Age hardcover, 40% off, only $17.99. And Batman, the Golden Age Omnibus hardcover, Volume 2, 2025 edition, 40% off, only $75. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they have some great deals of the week, and it's a pretty diverse lineup. So we've got DC's finest, The Flash, the Human Thunderbolt trade paperback, $39.99 regularly, 55% off, only $17.99. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6 Stone Ocean hardcover, Volume 7, $25 regularly, 40% off, only $15. The JSA Compendium 1 trade paperback, $59.99 regularly, 50% off, only $29.99. Junkyard Joe Deluxe Direct Market Exclusive hardcover, $34.99 regularly, 50% off, only $17.49. And of course, Thor the Epic Collection trade paperback, Volume 10, The Eternal Saga. This is $44.99 regularly, 46% off, only $24.29. Thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Our next episode, Jim, we are going to be back and we're going to be talking about the current Ultimate Spider-Man series' first arc. We will see you then.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think we did it right there.
Jim,
I don't know.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's